Yeah. So here from Ricky, you cannot protect rideshare drivers without proper regulation. I do not believe we are contractors or employees. We need a new classification that involves dealing with data transparency and rates. I mean, you're saying all the things that David and I fully believe in. Transparency, huge. We need to understand the data, have access to it. But we have to be something. I've always said we need a hybrid independent contractor definition before federal and now state legislation just goes nuts. But we have to be something. And so that second sentence is where I get a little confused. If we're not contractors or employees, what are we? Because we're making money.
Yeah. No, I've actually talked about that hybrid model as well. I think that the current labor laws are outdated, that either you're an employee or an independent contractor. Like that used to be the case. But most of these laws were written a century ago. And
some of them date back to tort law.
Right. And it's
so it's like,
which is my tort law is my bread and butter. But it's I do think that it's time for policymakers to look at the current environment and see that there is a middle ground, and we need a way for people to pay into the system to get the protections that are 100% necessary that you get on the employee side. And we need also the independence of the independent contractor side, because we're never going back. These what we're seeing with gig work, 10 years ago, nobody would have expected it. It is what it is today, but it is, and it's here to stay. So we've got to adapt.
That's why I like what you said earlier. Is like, what is the intent of all of this? And I feel like everyone's so arguing on like it's this versus that. And we're going to try and force a solution. And I'm like, at the end of the day, what's the intent that you're trying to accomplish? And I feel like that gets lost. We do have a question here from Chris. I think very specifically. What kind of insurance should we be using, since personal vehicle insurance doesn't want to pay if they find out you're working when in an accident?
That's a great question. So buying the right insurance policy is really your top priority. I tell drivers all the time, there's two things you need to buy to do this work. One is a dash camera, and two is to take out a rideshare endorsement on your personal policy. Drivers who try to hide the fact that they're doing rideshare when they sign up for their insurance policies are doing themselves a huge disservice and leaving themselves vulnerable. You should be going to every major insurance company and telling them, I'm a rideshare driver, I'm a delivery worker, I want to make sure that I have adequate coverage to, first of all, make sure that any injury that I sustain is going to be covered, even if it's during if it's a hit and run, if it's by an uninsured driver, if it's in period one where I'm vastly underinsured through the companies. And there are policies that exist. If you tell them what you're looking for, shop around. A lot of drivers say it's too expensive. Well, that's probably because you went to just one company. Go to 10 companies.
And you might have asked them out of the box for the entire commercial insurance, which you don't need. Some of them have more refined ones for gig workers.
That's right. And another thing that you want to ask them about is there some sort of coverage to minimize the deductible? So when you get in an accident and you've got property damage through Uber or Lyft, in most states, that's a $2,500 deductible that you've got to pay to get that vehicle fixed. I've seen drivers like literally lose the roof over their heads because they can't pay the $2,500. That should not happen. If you took out the proper insurance to begin with, you could get that $2,500 deductible reduced to something much more manageable. So that's a long way of me saying, be honest with your insurance company about what you're doing. Don't cheap out and go with one of those cut rate companies that's just going to fight you on everything, and ask for the proper coverage. You will pay more, but it's a cost of doing business. And when something does go wrong, because it will, that's part of this business, you're going to get hit at some point, you're going to be covered.
So where Chris is saying Curry here, I can't speak fully on freight, even though I'm on it and understand it. I would need to go back and look, but with Curry, they have you 100% covered when you're doing a job for them.
Yeah, we've had cases with Curry, and we've actually been successful with workers' compensation, which is, that's really something. So I would say, if there's any chance that you're going to be doing work for a company where you're not covered by an occupational hazard policy, you really need to look into getting that rideshare endorsement.